All right, to discuss this further, we're also now being joined by Dr. Tara Karta, former Director of National Security Council Secretariat, former Senior Fellow at the U.S. Institute of Peace. Thank you so much for joining us on World DNA. Always a pleasure to have you.
Terrific to be here with you again. Thank you for calling me.
Now, Dr. Tara, of course, we were discussing this yesterday as well. Just if we were to go back, how do you think the situation has evolved over the past 24 hours or so?
See, they are making all these claims about the 6 aircraft down, that we have hit brigade headquarters, which, by the way, is not at all true. It's very much they have seen it. There's a lot of other counterclaims being made, which hopefully will assuage the ego which is there in Pakistan, right? That we have retaliated and we've caused, and of course the shelling which you've just said, which is extremely unfortunate on really innocent civilians this side. They've also claimed that you hit their hydropower project. Now that is a bit of a worry, because they have been threatening that they will hit our power plants this side. Of course, there's not much you can do because these are massive structures. But nonetheless, it is a trajectory which is possible. There is overall, I think there is a lot of unease in Pakistan. People are calling for de-escalation. But as you know, the key is this General Munir. I mean, why did he start this in the first place? Like, I think on a show, in someone else's show, I had wondered, why did this man start this at all? Such a brutal attack with a targeted message saying, go and tell Mr. Modi. So he wants you to go to war. So that is where we have to be very careful. What are we walking into? You never walk into a situation which you don't know. So that is one, because he himself, I think his survival depends on how he handles this. Because he's under a lot of problems inside. So when it's that kind of a situation, when a military leader, when he's thinking, if this doesn't work, I'm going to, be jailed or thrown. After all, he's jailed and thrown just about everybody else into prison. Then it becomes very dangerous, because it is one man's and his clique's ambition. And that is what I'm scared of. Hopefully, the other co-commanders, who they are powerful people in their own right, hopefully they will advise him now to de-escalate.
Right, Dr. Tara, but that being said, we have been seeing these ceasefire violations that have continued. We've seen continuous shelling across the LOC as well. At a time when India has said that the strikes were non-escalatory in nature and were a response to the dastardly Pahalgam terror attack, what do you think is going to be Pakistan's next course of action? Because we've seen it keeps taking the same route over and over again. Diplomatic solution, as far as Pakistan is concerned, does not seem plausible at this point, or would you say it is?
I mean, in one sense, it's hilarious. They are reacting to strikes against terrorists, and they are protecting terrorist camps. I mean, they are upset because a bunch of internationally known designated terrorist camps like Murid Ke and with the other one in Bahawalpur were hit. So you're using all your assets to protect these camps. So it's a very strange situation. But one hopeful sign, which it might sound a little ironic, but the fact is they've designated their ISI chief as an NSA. Now, I think that is an opening for you to talk with them, because there's no use talking to a civilian NSA. He has no clout whatsoever. So hopefully this man will be able to sort of bring this temperature down. But the question is, you have to solve this once and for all. How long will you go on doing this? Okay, in the earlier Balakot, you went and attacked some camps in towards Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. It was a short, sharp strike. It achieved what you wanted. This time your strikes are wider. These guys are going to do this again. If it's not 1 year down the line, sometime, then what will you do? Will you bomb the whole of Pakistan? So we have to get the international community on board. They've forgotten all about terrorism because they're so busy with conventional wars. So somehow that has to be your future trajectory, even if it means taking Pakistan on board and saying, look, end your terrorism, and we can open up trade, etc., whatever, but this has to stop once and for all.
Right, you're absolutely right. Now, just to expand on that and to perhaps understand better as well, what do you think it will take? Because we were discussing this yesterday as well, and we were joined by Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, who was saying that, as you rightly mentioned, we've done this in the past, it's happened over and over again. However, this time the strikes are wider. Do you think that has some sort of sense of finality to it? Or do you think that's not the message that Pakistan has gotten from this? And if there has to be, if we need to deal with this once and for all, what will that take? Will it take sanctions? Will it take the involvement of the United States, perhaps the entire international community?
It would, but those signs are not very encouraging, are they? I mean, here is President Trump saying India and Pakistan are both my friends. I mean, where is this coming from? The US had this whole 9/11 war against terror across the world, and we are not supposed to react, is it? I mean, what kind of hypocrisy is this? So, in one thing I've learned in my years in service, don't depend on anybody else. Right? You have to be able to stand on your own feet, and which means, and this is critical, you have to fund your defense enough. Not just fund, you have to take all the processes which empower your army, make this much faster and much smoother. That is really, really vital that you should do this.
Right. Now, also Pakistan, you were mentioning the hydropower projects as well. Pakistan has hit not only by Operation Sindoor, but also the diplomatic measures that were taken prior to this, right in the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack. Now, when we talk about the Indus Waters Treaty, of course, there's this fear in Pakistan that it would lead to a lesser water downstream. How do you see this Indus Waters Treaty, that being in abeyance? How do you see the extent of its impact on Pakistan?
It's huge. It's much more than war. And it's happening right now. Because in Baghliyar, you have desilted. I mean, this is a process which goes on. You desilt and then you fill up the dam again. While you're filling up, there's no water going downstream. Now, under norm, and this is sad because before these attacks took place, we have been cooperating with them, giving them data, river share, all the data, everything by the book. And then they did this attack. So now they are already scared because the water levels are down. So if you choose to sort of prolong this, you can't stop. You can stop it as of now. You could stop it in the future. You can announce a bunch of construction. We need that water. We need it in Punjab. We need it in Rajasthan. We desperately needed water as climate change happens. But we've never done this. We've been a very mature state. We've gone with this treaty as much as we could. Now, if you don't appreciate that, well, then sorry, too bad. That's it. So that is what the army is frightened of. There are already 1 lakh trucks sitting on the Karachi-Punjab border protesting against Punjab stealing much of its water. Now, even if that available water goes down, what's going to happen tomorrow? So that is, to my mind, it's very sad because one doesn't want to really target the Pakistani people, right? They have no grudge against the farmers and things, but this is what the army has done. They've brought this country to this level with the help of their great allies, China and Turkey.
Absolutely. Now, also, from how things have played out since yesterday, it also appears to be a battle of narratives for Pakistan. We've been seeing the fake news that's coming out of Pakistan. We've been seeing the inflammatory comments that still haven't stopped despite all that has transpired so far. I was reading one of those statements by the leadership in Pakistan saying that this was an unprovoked act by India and Pakistan has the right to react to it at a time of its choosing. Would you then say, because we were talking about Pakistan's internal struggles as well, it appears to be just military flexing and posturing at this point. Do you think Pakistan is perhaps a victim of its own delusions of grandeur here?
That's a very good question. I think it is, because you tend to believe your own grand statements. And not just that, the danger is, I think, Munir has basically backed himself into a corner. Now it's a question of who blinks first. Now you've done what you had to do. They are saying we've shot down, so blah, blah, XYZ, whatever. Now, if the public is satisfied with that, and as of now, it seems to me that they're all cheering that, oh, we've given a slap in the face, etc., let them do that. That's okay. That's their problem. But with these people, you don't, they're not really rational. Their decision making is not like ours. In ours, you have to be sure that your voters and your public is taken on board. You can't just ignore them and say, I'm taking all my money and putting it into defense, because you need a bunch of things. These guys, regrettably, have totally funded their military to the exclusion of civil society. So they are, in many ways, a pretty powerful force. You can't deny that. I mean, anyone who says they just got this, that's a bit of, you need to understand your enemy. But having said that, how long can you sustain this? They are in debt. The IMF is not going to give loans to a country which is at war. So one hopes that better sense prevails, but I'm not betting on it.
All right. Dr. Tara, thank you so much for joining us on WION World is One with your insights on this and your perspective on this. Thank you so much for your time. For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.